Good evening, you're watching the 7 o'clock English news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Oman Astronomical Society signs Memorandum of Understanding to simulate life in Mars, a unique step for the Sultanate in the space field. The Oman Oil and Gas Conference 2017 reviews investment opportunities, exploration works and the search of alternative sources for production process. The Sultan's general revenue reaches 6 billion Omani riyals during the last 9 months. And the Oman National Transport Company Muwasalat signs agreement to import 98 new buses. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos has sent cable of greetings to His Excellency President Xi Jinping of China on him being re-elected as Secretary General of the Communist Party of China for the second term. Oman Astronomical Society and the Austrian Space Forum signed today many memorandum of understandings with Petroleum Development of Oman and Oman Broadband Company to simulate life in Mars. The experiment is a unique step for the Sultanate in the space field. The signing ceremony was presided over by His Highness Sayyid Shihab bin Tariq Al Said, advisor to His Majesty the Sultan. More details in foreign report by Saif Al-Kindi.
The Omani desert will be soon the gateway to life on Mars. A crew of European test astronauts is laying the groundwork for a Mars simulation. The mission is intended to pave the way to the Red Planet. Alexander Suzik, Vice President of Austrian Space Forum, describes the simulation as a unique experiment in the Sultanate.
The mission itself is in isolation. That means the crew members on Mars will not interact with other people during the 3 weeks because they are on Mars, they are isolated. But of course the whole world will follow via social media, via the reports we get from the field. And before and after we will do a lot of lectures, public lectures, also here in Oman, to schools, and we will talk about it as much as possible.
The experiment will be started next year in the Sultanate, revealed that living in Mars is the dream of many nations, and it could be achieved soon in the Sultanate within a simulation conducted by a group of 20 simulators in cooperation between Oman Astronomical Society and the Austrian Space Forum. Giving more details about the simulation, Mr. Suzik pointed out.
We will have 2 teams, like in a real mission. We will have the team, the crew on Mars, that is our colleagues in Oman. And then we will have a mission control center that will be located in Austria, in Europe. And we will have a time delay of communication like it would be in a real mission, so we cannot talk directly to each other. We have to wait 10 minutes that an answer comes. And the field crew in Oman will conduct many experiments, scientific and technical experiments in the desert.
During the mission, the team will carry out a series of experiments from growing greens without soil in an inflatable hydroponic greenhouse to testing an autonomous tumbleweed rover which maps out terrain while propelled by the wind. PDO and Oman Broadband Company will support the project, which will last for 1 month. Saif Al-Kindi, Majlis of Oman, Muscat.
Around 107 work papers discuss political conflicts via social channels networks and the moral and legal framework of these channels in a conference titled Arab Society and Social Media Networks. The event was being hosted by Information Department at Sultan Qaboos University. The inauguration ceremony of the conference was presided over by His Excellency Dr. Abdul Mu'lim bin Mansour Al-Lahsani, Minister of Information. Around 120 researchers from inside and outside the Sultanate are taking part in the 4-day conference. It deals with topics related to the content of social media channels and the future of Arab culture in digital and social media era. The activities of Oman Oil and Gas Conference 2017 kicked off today in Muscat. The conference will review investment opportunities in these two sectors, exploration works and the search for alternative sources for the production process. The conference, which is considered the first of its kind in the Sultanate, is organized by Oman Society for Petroleum Services, and it will provide a chance for job seekers to acquaint with various companies working in oil and gas sectors, employment opportunities. The event is aimed at supporting the national economy of the Sultanate through using latest technologies in exploration of oil and gas. The decrease of oil prices and its adverse effects on the economies of world countries were highlighted by the conference. The two-day conference witnessed the participation of specialists who gave lectures in which they reviewed their experiences and visions to improve and upgrade alternative technology for oil and gas and cybersecurity in this regard. The event was accompanied by an exhibition in which oil and gas companies presented their services and available job opportunities for the Omani youth. The total value of the Sultan's general revenue reached 6 billion Omani riyals during the last 9 months, recording an increase of 20% compared to the same period of last year. The Ministry of Finance stated that this increase is attributed to the enhancement of oil revenues and uplifting efficiency of non-oil revenues. The general expenditure this year witnessed an increase by 4%, reaching 8.5 billion Omani riyals. These statistics show that there is a decrease in a general deficit during the 9 months of the current year by 32% compared to the same period of last year. The lack of financial resources is one of the main challenges facing sports in the Sultanate. This was clarified by the Shura Council session, which shed light on the reality of sports media and marketing, as well as the elements affecting them. The discussions focused on finding financial resources for sports clubs and activities, as well as the importance of existence of investment, which will all contribute in transforming the Omani sports industry. The challenges facing sports media were also discussed during the session, with hopes to further develop the sector on all levels in the upcoming period. Still to come, a news bulletin. The Submersible electric pump factory is opened in Sohar Industrial Estate with local and Russian partnership. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Iran's foreign ministry said that Iranian President Hassan Rouhani turned down a meeting with US President Donald Trump during his visit to New York to attend the United Nations General Assembly in September. A ministry spokesman said after his briefing to the press today that the American side expressed Trump's willingness to hold a bilateral meeting with Rouhani, which was not accepted by the Iranian president, as long as their policies towards Iran remain unchanged. Rouhani said that any talks between the two nations are unlikely unless Tehran observes a fundamental change in the behavior and policies of the United States toward the Islamic Republic over regional issues. In 2013, then US President Barack Obama and Rouhani spoke by telephone, the highest level contact between the two countries in decades, prompting an outcry from Iranian hardliners. Since then, there has been no such communication between Tehran and Washington, which officially severed diplomatic ties in 1979. A U.S. delegation met with Kurdish and Iraqi delegations yesterday in Mosul to discuss the disputes between Kurdish Peshmerga and Iraqi forces. The two forces have been fighting each other since the outcome of a referendum independence in the northern Kurdish region of Iraq. Despite warnings from Baghdad, the United States, Turkey, Iran, the United Nations and others, then the vote was held on 25th September in the three provinces that make up the autonomous Kurdish zone, as well as in disputed territories claimed by Baghdad, but at the time was held by Kurdish forces. Within weeks, the referendum proved to be extraordinarily costly. The region lost nearly half of the territory that had been comfortably under Kurdish control for years, including the oil-rich city of Kirkuk. The region's airspace was closed to international commercial flights. Turkey threatened the use of military force, and both Iran and Turkey threatened to close border crossing vital to the landlocked region. The Indian and Italian prime ministers held talks today and signed a slew of agreements that mark a thaw in their relations following the fatal shootings of two Indian fishermen by Italian Marines who mistook them for pirates. Talks between Italian Prime Minister Paolo Gentiloni and his Indian counterpart Narendra Modi covered a wide range of topics, including ways to deepen bilateral economic and political relations. They signed 6 agreements to boost energy security, bilateral trade and cooperation in railway technology. The talks also covered cybersecurity and the threat posed by international terrorism. With Gentiloni's visit, India and Italy have cast aside the strained relations of the past 5 years. Soon after the 2012 incident, India arrested the 2 Italian Marines for killing the 2 fishermen in Indian waters while they were assigned to anti-piracy duties aboard an Italian commercial ship. Sri Lankan Foreign Minister Tilak Marapana met with the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi today at the start of his visit to China. They held talks in Beijing on cooperation on China's Belt and Road Initiative. China has invested about $8 billion in Sri Lanka in the last few years, and trade volume between the two has reached $4.4 billion. China has already bought major shares of Sri Lanka's Hambantota port. The two ministers signed an agreement of cooperation of judicial affairs after the meeting. Back here in the Sultans, reviewing fields of existing military cooperation between the Sultan and Italy and means of promoting them were the main aspects of discussions between His Excellency Said Badr bin Saud bin Harib Al Busaidi, Minister responsible for Defense Affairs, and Air Marshal Enzo Pizzarelli, Chief of Staff of the Italian Air Force, who is currently visiting the Sultans. During the meeting, they exchanged points of view on matters of mutual concern between the two countries. It was attended by Air Vice Marshal Mathur bin Ali Al Obeidani, Commander of the Royal Air Force of Oman, and His Excellency the Italian Ambassador accredited to the Sultanate, as well as the Italian delegation. Air Marshal Enzo Pizzarelli, Chief of Staff of the Italian Air Force, and his delegation visited the Sultan's Armed Forces Museum in Beit el-Falaj Fort. They toured various corridors of the museum and were acquainted with historical manuscripts and miniatures which portray the art of the Omani architecture. They were also briefed about the progress witnessed by the Sultan's Armed Forces and the prosperous reign of His Majesty Sultan Qaboos, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces. At the end of the visit, the Italian guest expressed his pleasure of the visit on the VIP register. The work mechanisms and procedures at the Shura Council, as well as its legislative and auditing powers, were the main topics reviewed by His Excellency Khalid bin Hilal Al Maali, Chairman of the Shura Council, when he met His Excellency Vincenzo Amendola, Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Italy. They also discussed joint bilateral relations between the two friendly countries and ways of developing them in various aspects, particularly in Shura, and benefiting from the democratic experiences from both sides. A total cost of 12 million Omani Riyals, the Omani National Transport Company Muwasalat signed agreements to import new public transport buses. The agreement stipulated on importing 98 new buses in the upcoming period and 33 buses for external routes, in addition to 65 buses for internal roads starting from December this year. This step will provide work opportunities to more than 320 job seekers. The private records management system for the Higher Institute for Judiciary was approved today by His Excellency Sheikh Abdul Malik bin Abdullah bin Ali Al Khalili, Minister of Justice and Chairman of the Institute, and His Excellency Dr. Hamad bin Muhammad Al Loyani, Chairman of the National Records and Archives Authority. The department concerned in the Institute, with the coordination of the authority, will train some employees to implement various mechanisms of the system. This system is the cornerstone for building a modern system for records management as per international approved standards. The Ministry of Health, in cooperation with the World Health Organization, WHO, organized the training course on monitoring and support for implementation of the Regional Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes. It came to encourage natural breastfeeding and shed light on its nutrition values for the newborn babies. The course came coinciding with the National Breastfeeding Week. It reviewed the current situation of the inappropriate marketing as well as challenges facing it. The Sultan's experience in implementation of the regional code was also reviewed. The course also focused on training the participants in the evaluation process of the regional code and its implementation, in addition to ways of preserving natural breastfeeding. Oman Air attained a new achievement by winning the title, the Best Airline for Business and Economy Class for 2017. It came as a result of voting for Oman Air by hosts of travel experts from all over the world. Meanwhile, the national carrier of the Sultan announced the trial opening of its new call center in Gorejwan in India, in addition to its current center, which is being operated in the Sultanate. The Sultan's needs of submersible electric pumps will be available locally through a factory which was opened at Sohar Industrial Estate with a local and Russian partnership. The inauguration ceremony of the factory was held under the auspices of His Excellency Dr. Ali bin Masood As-Sinaidi, Minister of Commerce and Industry. The project came to meet the needs of Petroleum Development of Oman Company PDO of electric pumps for its oil operations. The total cost of the factory amounted to $7.5 million US. It imported the first batch of its product to PDO as per a 3-year contract worth $1.5 million. And now for the news focus around the Sultanate. Clear skies will prevail over the Sultanate with chances of low clouds and fog late at night and early morning of the governorates of Sharqiya and Wusta and coastal areas of Sea of Oman. Winds will be easterly to southeasterly light to moderate, and seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1 meter. This is the Sultan of Oman television. Before tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Oman Astronomical Society signs a memorandum of understanding to simulate life in Mars, a unique step for the Sultanate in the space field. The Oman Oil and Gas Conference 2017 reviews investment opportunities, exploration works, and the research of alternative sources for production process. The Sultan's general revenues reaches 6 billion Omani Riyals during the last 9 months. And the Oman National Transport Company Muwasalat signs agreements to import 98 new buses. And with that, come to the end of tonight's news bulletin from all of us here in the newsroom and the studios. Thanks for watching. Good night.